And then, of course, the nightclubs came in, the arts were here. The South Florida Arts Center played a large part because they bought 3 buildings in Lincoln Road because they were able to afford to buy the buildings, and so the art then, started to come in, and always the arts and the fashion and the antiques, they were all here. Now they're all being pushed out, but they were all here. Those are the people that really make it chic and attractive.
But I like your point. It was sun and sand. And the fact that you could eat outside all year round. Okay, play tennis, play golf, go fishing all year round. That sun is so important.
But it was the Preservation League that then was the one that put out the word about the historic district, and we pitched it and did the educational piece that, and we do get a lot of tourists that come. We've expanded our tour program tremendously. I remember when I got involved in the early 80s, back then, I forget, she's now in Middle Florida. She used to have the little shop on Washington Avenue. She ran the tours from her office. And I know that Richard Hoberman, who's another former chair of the league, would run every Saturday for I don't know how many consecutive Saturdays and how many years. He was the sole tour guide. And then Jeff Donnelly, who's also a former board member, when he came on board, developed the tour school based on the Chicago Foundation model that was so successful. And now we have different sorts of tours. That one is a boat tour that takes you through the bay and tells you the story of the city through the bay. One is an underground tour that tells you the stories of this city when it was so as Bill says, the gangsters and Prohibition era, and the stories of how we developed the city. There's the story of the different neighborhoods, because even when we designated the National Register District, it was a square mile that was designated, but locally we were only able to do it piece by piece, and actually each piece has its own little story to tell. So now we have like Española Way, when Desi Arnaz came and did his song and dance on Española Way, and we have now probably the one that will be, to me, the most, from an economic sense, will be the strongest is indeed the Bass Museum area, where the cultural arts is being focused with the library and the Miami City Ballet and the new library that will be opening. So the tour program is
that has really taken off. It started with one tour a week, and it's now 5 days: Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
And we also have an audio one. We still have
and
the audio tour
in 5 languages.
In many languages.
5 languages. Yeah.
It's impressive. It's impressive.
And this organization, it's a terrific organization. I support Miami Design Preservation League because they really have done a great job in this community that is really not known very well by the average person. Only the people that have been here a long time and that have worked on it carry the history, and the history is not out there for the rest of the community to understand. It is the part of Miami Design Preservation that lacks a little bit, is to talk about ourselves and to talk about themselves and to say the things that they have done that are so great. Because if there is an organization that should take the credit for Miami Beach, South Beach, and the historic district and the economic development that has happened here, it's Miami Design Preservation League. Nobody does it alone. A lot of people come, but you always have to remember who began it.
The other threat that scares me, and there's nothing that you can jump on and put your arms around, is the fact that we are so successful. It's so hard for a property owner to maintain his pocketbook with a 1 or 2 story building, and if he's not contributing, if it's not a contributing building to the district, You know, that can get replaced by a 75-foot high structure, and all of a sudden you won't be able to see these 1- and 2-story Art Deco buildings, because we're going to have too many other tall buildings floating around us. And that's why I was pleased with the referendum last time out, which helped shore up the argument. We don't want to become an island filled with tall buildings.
Well, we always have to keep a watch on what's going on around. Like Bill just said, the challenges are endless. And like Matti mentioned, you know, historically the battles that were had, when you're successful, it's easy to tell the story, like she said, but you never hear the heartaches. And when we registered the National Register District, it took us a long time locally, as I mentioned before, to get all, because our goal then as an organization was to get the entire National Register District as a local district, because that's really what protected our buildings from demolition. And when we got all those neighborhoods designated, we thought, we're home free, we can sit back, we can do more proactive things and not just always be on the defensive of protecting these buildings. Well, from the conversation we've had here, you can see that that never goes away. And the economic success of the district is exactly what puts pressure on the historic buildings, because people want to go higher, and we're taxed at highest and best use. So the property owner that has a 5-story building that wants to preserve that site and could sell, you know, we've been successful with legislation locally. I mean, Matti has now been a commissioner here this 5 years, and even while she's been sitting, they've done tweaking of the ordinance, because you always find what comes. Demolition by neglect was one of the tweaks, and several other tweaks that have occurred.
Also the changes when the adaptive reuse, when they're using a building, sometimes they want to change it too much. You know, first was saving the building, then was, after we got the district, then was, well, you can't change the window. Why can't I change the window? No, you gotta, the floor can't be in the middle of the window. And we went through this whole to-do about how do you restore and adapt it to another use, because the uses were changing. So the watch evolves as the issue changes, and you have to keep constantly, what is the next issue that's coming up? You know, what is it that we're going to have to fight for? And so it really is a never-ending battle. The garages were a big deal, you know, because the more people that come, the more garages you need. Miami Design Preservation League actually was the first one that decided that they needed a shuttle, an internal shuttle for South Beach area. It was done. And the TMA that we have, those little electrowave, it started at the Miami Beach Development Corporation, because we wanted to make sure that we didn't have to demolish a lot of buildings for parking garages. So the thought was, let's have a local shuttle that travels around. That is evolving. It went away from Miami Beach Development Corporation. The TMA has it now. The City Commission is not supporting it anymore. I think I'm the only, you know, one of the few that support it. They want to turn it over to the county, which I don't know if it will work or not. I'm still debating that point. But see, there's always things that evolve through the years, and you have to constantly be aware.
React and be creative.
Right.
Because in the creativity is how you solve the problem. And this organization has indeed been successful in doing that. But we were taught very well, at least I was,
and I was too,
by Barbara Bear Capitman. If there was a way to go around something, she would lead us all and march on that vision that Matti mentioned earlier. You know, and that is the success of this organization too, is its many volunteers. I know that I witnessed Barbara getting people right off the street. She'd be walking down Washington. I said, can you help me? Come with me. And she'd take them by the hand. And some of those people are still with us and still volunteering for this organization. So it is a people organization. People come and go, but people that go always know that they have a home to come back to in this organization. And there have been, I know that Barbara hated to compromise, but there have been a lot of